Tuesday evening, following his dinner. In the word of Ecclesiastes, it was finally the appointed time for our dear Monsignor James Bernard Caverly to board that sailboat about which he preached at almost every funeral I ever attended. With the Lord whom he had served so faithfully and so well for 54 years, and set sail across that sea to eternal life. For the last few trying months, Monsignor had waited for that appointed time with great resignation and great expectation. And finally, the Master came to call him home. As a generous, kind, and compassionate priest, he had spent his days here on earth, again using the words of Ecclesiastes, planting the seed of God's promises, healing, building up, laughing, and mourning, always desirous of gathering those human stones which had been scattered, embracing, seeking, keeping, rending, sowing, loving, and offering us all the peace of God. Personally, he often chose silence, but when it was time to speak, he was Irish eloquent and Christ translucent. He was a priest, in so many ways, another Christ to many others. I saw him twice when he was recently in St. Anthony's Hospital. He was uncomfortable, but uncomplaining. When I asked him the best moment of the day, on both occasions, without hesitation, he said, when they bring me communion, he cherished the living bread that come down from heaven. And the Eucharist he celebrated was the heart of his personal spirituality. From my conversations with him, I knew that he was merely awaiting his appointed hour, knowing that having eaten this bread and drinking from this cup, he would live forever with the Lord he had so faithfully served. Shortly after being ordained a bishop, and looking at the many pastors who had served for decades in their parish, I began to think about what changes I might make in my first spring here, operating under the foolish presumption that I should get all the painful stuff out of the way early in my time here. So in late February of 1996, I met Monsignor at his favorite restaurant of that time, the Wine Cellar. And after some small talk, I asked him if after 20 years, he would welcome a change in assignment. Without a nanosecond of hesitation, he responded, "No, Bishop, no. I'm very happy at the cathedral. Leave me alone." So I left dinner thinking that I would give Monsignor a pass that year and let him stay in place. But in April, we were beginning to make changes in clergy personnel, and this very parish, St. Raphael, was likely to be open. I called him one morning on the phone, and I simply said, "Bernie, St. Raphael is open. Would you like it?" Once again, without a nanosecond of hesitation, he said, "I would, Bishop, I would, I really would. Thank you so very much." And then he said, "But may I call Pat to see what he thinks?" The rest, you know, is blessed history. In our entire time together, he only asked me one other thing. Would I allow him to build a new church here, even though the required funding was not yet in place? I knew that he was confident that God would provide, more confident than I was. I asked him, "Bertie, what's the hurry?" And his response was simply, my brother Pat has built all kinds of things, and I had my entire priesthood that never built anything once before I died. The Caverly brothers were a part of Ireland's great gift to the massively growing church in Florida. One an extrovert, and the other one to whom we say farewell today, not fully, but certainly more introverted. I bet there aren't many priests sitting over here, present this afternoon, from that era, who were ever invited to Monsignor's house, where he lived down the street from the cathedral. I wasn't. It was his private space. I never got invited, but that was all right, because whenever I wanted to, and every night that he was in town and free, he would join the other priests at the Dartmouth House residence for dinner. But few, if any of us, has a story to tell of his unkindness, of his lack of concern for us, or in my case, anything but personal loyalty. God's people loved Monsignor Bernard Caverly. In his priestly life, he managed to hatch, match, and dispatch thousands. Baptisms, weddings, funerals. No one ever left his presence without knowing that he genuinely cared for them, in sickness and in health, in richness or in poverty. He had that remarkable ability of getting those in his presence to tell them everything, easily and fully, about their lives and condition. But again, when it came to his own, even his recent suffering and illness, he just simply chose not to go there with others. Bill Tapp, his music director at the cathedral for almost 2 decades, would simply describe Monsignor in these words: he was a good man. And I'm sure that everybody in this church, gathered before his casket, would hardly agree. If the privilege of preaching accorded to me this moment had been given to the present pastor of St. Raphael, Father Sherwood, he would certainly say that as a young person, Monsignor Caverly was both an example and an animator of his own priestly vocation. Lots of people here today, lots of more people in eternal life, and others living elsewhere would smile and say, he was indeed a good man. He was a great priest. For Monsignor, the greatest cross he carried was trying to resolve disputes. He did not like confrontation, and he at least liked being the confronter. For some, that may surely be seen as a sign of weakness. But our Lord had a different perspective when he claimed and proclaimed, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the kingdom." To you, Vincent, and to you, his nieces and nephews and family, we thank you. And through our prayers for Bernie, your beloved brother and uncle and great uncle, this day we thank all of those in your family already in eternal life. Your sister Etna, Patrick, Daniel, your parents and grandparents, for all of they, as well as yourselves, have lent us and shared Bernard to us all these years. It allowed him to become one of us, and we shall, like yourselves, miss him very much. So we say farewell to Monsignor on this day when the church remembers another Irish saint, Oliver Plunkett, who also spent a great deal of his priestly life outside of Ireland, the Ireland that he loved before suffering a martyr's death. He too loved his church, and like Monsignor Caverly, he loved his native land. And Jim and Sarah and I go back to the village of Skibbereen next Wednesday to give our final farewell. I hope I'll have an opportunity to tell those gathered there how much he meant to us. As you may have noticed, because you laughed, I began with an image that Monsignor Caverly used in every funeral homily I ever heard him give. The image of a deceased getting into a sailboat and heading toward the horizon. I choose to end with mostly his ending, but in my own words, and with a thought liberally borrowed from the book of Revelation, our second reading at this Mass. Having set sail to the distant horizon, the moment would come when the far shore could be seen, heaven. And perhaps as that boat sailed closer to that far shore and to eternal life, our priest, James Bernard, might see Jesus along the distant coastland, beckoning, as he did after the resurrection, to his disciples, who were also in a boat. At that moment, Bernie Caverly will fully understand the words of the book of Revelation. The former heaven and the former earth have passed away, and the sea is no more. He will also see the holy city, a new Jerusalem, and God will wipe every tear from his eyes and our eyes, and there shall be no more death, no more mourning, no more waiting, no more pain. At the end of the sail, from death to new life, to Monsignor, God will give once again a gift from the spring of life-giving water, and he will hear again the words of the Lord, I shall be your God, and you are my son. Well done, good and faithful servant. Well done, good shepherd. Rest